Good morning and welcome back for another how-to video courtesy of the Razor Company. I'm your host CDB, and today we're going to be discussing strategies for caring for your gear directly after the shave. And we're going to break this down into three sections. The first part will be caring for your razor. The second part will be caring for your brush. And the third part will be caring for your soap after the shave. Let's get started with caring for your razor. All right, and we're back here with our RazoRock Mamba 70 razor, and we've got some soap on the razor here as if we have just performed a shave. And the first thing we do is quite simple and straightforward. We simply rinse off the razor under warm water. We're trying to remove as many whiskers and as much soap residue as possible. So we've got the razor rinsed off, and the next thing we're going to do, and this is the most important step from my perspective, removing the blade from the razor. Nothing good comes from leaving this blade in the razor, because this blade and all blades virtually are cheap steel. And if you leave that blade in the razor wet over the course of a few days or sometimes longer, maybe less depending on your environment, it will begin to rust, and it will transfer rust to your stainless steel, to your pot metal, almost any metal. So this, taking the blade out of the razor, is the single most important step in eliminating the possibility of rust. So we'll take out the blade, we will set it aside safely. And then what we're gonna do is just clean this up a little bit to remove any soap residue. And I am gonna use just a little bit of a Dawn dishwashing liquid. You can use Palmolive, whatever you want. Just put a little bit on there, and I'm just gonna work that soap in. Now, some folks like to use soft bristle toothbrushes. I do wanna warn you that some folks feel that using a soft bristle toothbrush on a mirror polish razor could scratch the finish. So please be careful. On this particular razor, this is not a mirror polish, so I have no problem using it. What I'll do is just turn on the water and simply work that toothbrush with the soap, just sort of getting in those nooks and crannies of the razor, trying to remove that soap residue from the shave soap, because some of the shaving soaps leave a little film. And over time, the razor, if you don't rinse it, disassemble it, it will begin to accumulate soap residue. And then it becomes a little harder to remove. But the main thing is to get that blade out of the razor and let it dry. So once we have that rinsed off, all the soap is off of it, you can take a cloth, make sure it is not an abrasive cloth. This one is microfiber, and we'll just dry this piece off as best we can. Again, do not use an abrasive cloth, especially on mirror polish. You can also use one of these microfiber cloths, say, that you clean eyeglasses with. And all we're looking to do here is dry this piece off. And once it is dry, we will set it to the side. We will repeat that process for the top cap. Let me show you very quickly something about the handle. There is no reason whatsoever to dunk this entire handle in the water, because that space right there can fill up with water. And is it the end of the world if it does? No, it's not. But why introduce water inside that handle? There's no compelling reason to do so. So what I do is I'll clean it in the same way, use a little Dawn, and then when I rinse it, it will be holding the handle down this way. This way the water is running off the razor and over the end of the handle and not into. So if you do it, let me wipe this off first. If you do it this way, you're going to run the water right into that handle, and then sure, you can dry it out, but why bother? You don't need to. If you simply point it down, and then as soon as you're finished, again, we're just going to simply dry it off. And once we have all the parts dried off, we're going to set them down on a cloth or something nice and put them in a nice dry area. I'll show you the way they're sitting here, but I generally do not leave them in the restroom. So I'll set them out on a cloth like that for about 24 hours. And usually that's enough time. All the pieces will be dry. We will reassemble the razor and you will be good to go. Water after the shave is the enemy of your razor and virtually all your shaving equipment. So if you rinse these pieces, remove soap residue, take that blade out, dry them off, your razor's going to be looking good for a very long time. All right, and now we're going to talk about caring for your brush after the shave. And as you can see here, our Omega Evo Brush, which is sold by the Razor Company. I believe they have the camo version in stock. Nice synthetic brush. Anyway, We've got soap loaded in it, and the main thing to consider when caring for your brush post-shave, get the soap out of the knot and then dry it out. It's really that simple. So we're gonna start here with some warm water. Not too hot, just warm. And we will gently work the soap out of the knot. And it's really, really simple. And again, I'm not pulling and tugging on the knot. I'm just sort of bending it one way and then the other, just to work that water through and get all the soap out of this knot. That is the key. You don't want the soap to be left in the knot and then dry it out, because it starts to build up in the knot. And also, if you leave too much moisture in the knot, you can get problems with mold, mildew, so on and so forth. So you want to make sure you get all the soap out of the knot, and then you want to make sure you dry your brush. Now with synthetics, it's quite easy because this brush will be dry in a couple of hours. With a badger or a boar, it could take 24 hours, 48 hours. There's no telling. It takes longer to dry. So my guidance for you when getting the soap out of this knot is, whenever you think you are done, go a little bit further, go a little bit longer. Continue to work that water in, and then we'll turn the water off and we'll give it a check. So we'll squeeze that knot and see if we hear any crackling. And I believe there's still some soap in there. So I'll just continue to rinse it. And again, just warm water, not crazy hot. And we're just trying to get all the soap out of the knot. You're just gonna continue this process until you get every bit of soap out of the knot. And when you stop and you squeeze it and you don't hear any crackling or you don't see a bunch of clumping. Now, it will clump some of the brushes in the tips until you dry them off. And just in a moment, I'm gonna show you how to dry it off. But the main thing is get all the soap out of the knot. I'll be back just in a moment and show you how to dry the brush off. All right, we're back here with our Omega Evo brush. And step one, rinse that soap out of the razor. And what I like to do is hold the brush at the base of the knot. And normally I would do this in the sink, but for the purpose of showing you, I will just sort of flip it like so, holding the base of the knot. I'm not holding it this way and flipping it because that puts a lot of pressure and force on the knot. I hold the base of the knot like so and just flip it. And what I'm doing there is just getting any excess water out of the knot. Again, during the shave, water is your friend. After the shave, it is not the friend of your gear. So the more water you get out of things, the better. So after I do those flips, I will dry off the handle. Again, using a soft, this happens to be a microfiber cloth. Some people use towels. If you have a highly polished handle, beware, some towels can maybe scratch it up. So I like to use a microfiber cloth or something like that. And what I'll do is just hold the cloth and gently paint the end of the brush on the cloth. Now, if you are using a badger brush or something with gel tips, they don't recommend that you do this because those tips are so fragile, you could break off the tips. But with synthetics, you're not gonna hurt it. I'm just gently painting. And what that does, it will continue to remove that moisture from the brush. So if I'm feeling this right now, it's wet. And it's just that small action there removes a lot of that moisture from the brush. You can also gently squeeze it if you want to, getting even more moisture out of the knot. Again, the key is to get the moisture out of the knot. And so we'll continue to paint a little bit. Again, if you have badger or special fragile tips, I would not recommend this particular part of the process. In that case, what I would do is just gently maybe squeeze the knot at the base a little bit, maybe with my hand sort of separate the badger hair and sort of get it formed the way you like, and then I would put it in its stand. Now, when you go to put your brush in the stand, I recommend that you put it in a stand that allows the knot to hang down this way. In the past, I used to set them on a sink like so, and I noticed I started getting mineral deposits in the nooks and crannies of the brush. So for me, I put it in a stand, I hang it down this way. If you don't have a stand, you can use something like paracord, make a loop around the brush and hang it off a coat hanger. Very easy, simple way to keep your brushes looking good, performing well for a long time. The key, get the soap and the moisture out of the brush and dry it out, and I think your brushes will serve you well for a long time. And last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about caring for your soap after the shave. Now, I want to tell you one thing right off the bat. If maximizing the longevity of your soap is the most important thing, then I recommend simply getting a cosmetic scooper, scooping some of the soap out, putting it in a bowl and lathering from the bowl. However, if you're one of those folks who load from the puck, and today I have done that, you can see the suds in there. I'll sort of give you my strategy for cleaning this up and sort of still trying to maximize the life of your soap. I personally do not recommend that you fill this soap tub full of water. What I would do would be get your brush wet or damp, load from the puck. I like to load it upside down like so. Again, trying to minimize the amount of water that I'm introducing into these tubs. What some folks don't realize is there are gaps between this soap and the sidewalls and bottoms of some of these tubs, and water can get trapped underneath. I have seen mold, mildew, perhaps not mildew, but definitely mold or something resembling mold growing in these soaps. You cap them off. If it's still wet, it's dark, it's sometimes warm. It's a perfect environment for growing who knows what. So for me, the strategy is if you're going to load from the puck, damp brush, load your soap as much as possible. Again, I like to load upside down, therefore the water isn't running down the sidewalls of the soap. After I have loaded and after the shave is over, I don't rinse the soap off. Again, I'm trying to minimize the amount of water I'm introducing into this soap. If you must do that, I like to hold it like sort of sideways, and so the water can sort of run off of it rather than filling it full and allowing that water a chance to get underneath the soap. That's just me. But what I do is after loading, I would just simply take a clean cloth and wipe it out like so. So you don't really even have to rinse this out if you don't want to. You can simply take a clean cloth, wipe all that proto-lather or excess lather off, and your puck will be looking good. You haven't introduced an excessive amount of water, and I think your soap, the chances of it, the scent lasting longer and the soap remaining in good shape is probably much better. I have some soaps that are old as 10 years old, and the reason is I don't introduce a lot of water. So my soaps are exposed to very little air and very little water. I scoop, I put the cap back on, boom. I think that maximizes the longevity of your soaps. But if you do load off the puck, my advice, minimize the amount of water. And when you're finished, just take a clean cloth, wipe it out. You haven't introduced a bunch of water to your soap. And from my perspective, that gives you the best chance of maximizing the life of your soap. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed those strategies for caring for your gear after the shave. On behalf of the Razor Company, I'm your host, CDB, wishing you great shaves and a great day.